do?
Good question.
I felt cheated in general, but I didn't feel, because I hadn't been made privy to the exact details of what David Kemp had planned. He just said, oh, well, this is what I'd originally hoped to do in seasons 5 and 6. We'd had an order from the network for seasons 4 and 5, and then got the rude shock of finding out 5 wasn't happening at the last minute. So sort of we felt cheated in that respect, but only, I think he would have felt it the most because it was all in his head and a lot of the time. Yeah.
It's in my head, I got no place to put it. I'm thinking about Eidolons. There's a large phallus piece in my head. It wants to open. Wow, I never really felt that way. I have newfound sympathy for David over things like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he'd been living with it for a long time, and I think they say that to you when you're pitching a show to a network, and they say, why should we buy your show and where do you see it going? They're supposed to have an idea of where they would see it going to the end. You know, this is where I see it starting, here are some ideas for some episodes, and here ultimately is where I think it would go in terms of the story we're trying to tell. So, I mean, and you often play your cards earlier than you think, because they say, we need something really exciting for episode 13, and you end up pulling something that you were supposed to put in episode 22, and then you have to keep sort of staying up, you know, and you stop sleeping because you're trying to think of ideas that you've already, you know, you've used too early. But yeah, I feel for him, because I remember him saying just before we did it that he'd had to truncate everything.
I mean, prior to day one of shooting, they'd already spent 5 years of planning to get to day one of shooting. So that's how long it takes to plan a show.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, this is, it's kind of quite a privilege. This is my first con ever, and I get a chance to meet you guys.
Oh, welcome. Let's make it very welcome.
Did you bring your duct tape?
It's in the toolbox. My question is actually sort of about language. You know, you get that injection so that you can sort of speak, for the most part, with each other. And yet, words like frel came about, which everyone knows what it was, but you know, the alternate swear words making its way into TV. And I think Farscape seems to be the first one that actually did that and kind of caught on and like, you know, for Battlestar Galactica and stuff. So
Well, Battlestar Galactica did it in the original series.
Right.
Oh, they did?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Was there any significance of picking that up and using that, or how did you feel about using words like that?
No problem. I think I got frill first, didn't I?
Yeah.
Did you ever using those,
Oh no, actually, I remember when I got the line "Frill me dead." And I remember, because they wanted us to do, I just remember they wanted me to say yachts at one point, and I said, you know, it seems to me that Dargo's there's a certain cadence to the words that he says that can't be translated into English with the microbes. It's not sort of, you know, it's not being translated properly in Crichton's head, so what else can't be translated? Well, it's sort of, you know, Rigel seemed to have Yiddish sounding words, Dargo's had a certain cadence as well, and so I sort of said, can I keep Frel? Because it was the cleanest, simplest, you know, it just seemed like a hard word that fit in with Aaron's personality, and I used the Frel out of it, and I loved it.
I didn't have any frowning things to say.
And I don't recall Zana swearing. Wow, she was a lady. She was mummy. No, so I don't think so. But I had no issue hearing it. I was going to say, are you jealous? Cut off pilot's arm. What's that? Say that again? Did I? No.
She would never do that. She's not really Australian.
How stupid bring that up. That was a very proud moment.
Very embarrassed about
Been
that.
debased by your foul mouth. Next question.
Real quick, just want to let everybody know, 10-year anniversary party, 9:30 p.m. in the Con Suite here in the Hyatt. And my question to all of you is, we as cons, we always get...
Sorry, everybody's going to the suture party. Because if anyone shows up at the suture party, I'm buying a beer. Okay, go ahead, where's the party?
Well, if your GPS gets you there, you know. My question to all of you is, we all get weird looks when we say, hey, we're going to DragonCon or Comic-Con. How do you pitch to your family, hey, I'm going to be on this sci-fi show? Especially for you Australian actors, because I understand you guys don't really get a lot of those shows there.
Are you talking about conventions?
No,
How did
the
you
actual
pitch
show
the
itself. When you
show?
went back to your family and say, hey, I'm going to be doing this new sci-fi show, what was their response?
Oh, well, no, that's great. Thank God.
My father said, oh, that'd be right. Typical. Yeah, something like that. I think, I know my friends watched really sort of, what they considered to be edgy, cool television. And for years I'd been doing all this stuff that they just never watched. And because we didn't really know what we were making, I mean, it was with the Henson Company and there were puppets, and for the first sort of 4 or 5 episodes, it was like, are we making a kid's show, a family show, and more racy, and the network was saying, make it sexier and edgier and do more, and, really push the envelope. And that, I mean, that certainly suited us. I liked the fact that it got darker and edgier as it went along. But yeah, our network in Australia wouldn't air it. So they themselves, I mean, there was this big party to launch Millennium Television, year 2000, Channel 9, and we were all invited along. And we got to the door and they wouldn't let me in. And we get in, and Gigi's running around saying, oh, they've got everyone's names who were actors on shoes on Channel 9, on stars on the floor, just like in LA. I'm going to go and find mine. Grab her before she ran off, because I thought, oh, don't let our little child go off into this cruel, cruel world. I had a feeling really bad. Of course they sort of, the lights went down and they promoted the son of the mogul who owned the network, introduced Millennium Television for 2000. And we'd heard sort of murmurs from the director of programming and head of programming and whatever in the crowd at the party. Yeah, science fiction, that's really hard to program. As we walk past. So they showed this montage, and our show just wasn't featured at all. And they had the newscasters going. I mean, really, this is high production value.
Newscasters in action slow-mo.
And I turned to Ben and I'm like, where's our show?
I knew we weren't going to see it as soon as I saw him try to keep her out of the party.
I think that was the night when the channel's logo halfway through the speech fell down off the wall.
The short answer is nobody knew we were doing the show, so we didn't have to explain it.
Right.
And if you told them you were on this show, they never saw it.
But Anthony and I went to see Galaxy Quest, and I'm sure you did shortly. We all saw Galaxy Quest around the same time, and we were sitting in the audience laughing and kind of crying at absolutely everything. And the audience in Australia just sort of, I mean, in the movie theatre, they just didn't seem to get nearly as many of the jokes as we did. And that was a really bizarre experience. I sort of nudged Anthony and said, they don't get it because they're not living and breathing this every day. And it was so well observed. So it was a really sort of, it was like living and working in a vacuum for a long time.
I think when they put it on to where cricket was happening in summer, so nobody saw it. Then there was a huge break, and then the next time they put it on was the opening of the Olympic Games. Hello.
The Sydney Olympic Games.
Yeah.
We got to cross the in the opening ceremonies of the Sydney Olympic Games. Who do you think won?